This was out of 50 marks, and it was only an hour. It was a simple test. There was nothing much complex about it. So the first part of it starts with a 1.1, which is asking us, it's a multiple choice question. You just have to choose. And also, please mute your mic. Okay, let's just mute here. All right. Okay. So now let us look at this, guys. We're supposed to do all of these corrections and finish them today because time is not really on our side at this point. We just need to complete everything as soon as possible. So here the instruction says refer to the cross section of a mid-latitude cyclone below. You guys, I'm sure that you are now familiar with how a cross section looks like. In this case, this is the cross section of a mid-latitude cyclone. Now they say just choose the answer that is correct and then write the letter A to D next to the question number. That's pretty simple as well. Now the first question says the mid-latitude cyclone in the above diagram is a we've got A, which says it's a tropical storm found near the equator. B says it's a large low pressure system that develops between 30 degrees and 60 degrees latitude. C says it's a high pressure system that brings clear skies, and D says it's a local thunderstorm associated with convection. So which one was your best answer there? 1.1.1. B. Yes, guys, a mid-latitude cyclone, we need to remember, guys, that a mid-latitude cyclone is a low pressure system because it is associated with warm rising air. Okay, especially at the warm sector, you need to know that there is always warm rising air that actually creates a low pressure. So we consider it a low pressure system, and its location, yes, indeed, it develops between the 30 degrees and the 60 degrees line of latitude. I think when I introduced the mid-latitude cyclone, I explained further on that, and specifically where exactly does it develop at the polar front and all of that. So it's a large low pressure system that develops between the 30 degrees and 60 degrees latitude. Then 1.2, which of the following best describes the movement of a mid-latitude cyclone? We want to know about the movement of a mid-latitude cyclone, specifically in the southern hemisphere. Okay, let's just go back here. In the southern hemisphere, they say which one best describes the movement of a mid-latitude cyclone in the southern hemisphere. A is west to east, B is east to west, C is north to west, D is south to west. Which one is the best description? Yes, Mukobe?
A.
It's A. Okay, so A says it moves
From
A. A here it is A. This PowerPoint is giving me a problem. But here, Mukobe is saying the answer is A. Sam, do you have a counter answer that is different?
No, sir. I just wanted to ask if it's on northern hemisphere, it was going to be B.
Yeah, it was going to be the opposite. It was going to be the opposite. But in the southern hemisphere, we say that a mid-latitude cyclone, it moves from west to east, or it moves eastwards, either one of those. So in this case, it is A. And then let's go to 1.1.3. Yes, Trevor?
So I wanted to ask, in the northern hemisphere, do we have a mid-latitude cyclone?
Yes, there is also a mid-latitude cyclone in the northern hemisphere. Because remember that everything that happens in the southern hemisphere, it is the same as what happens in the northern hemisphere. Okay, so we also have a polar front in the northern hemisphere. We also have warm westerlies in the northern hemisphere and cold polar easterlies in the northern hemisphere. It means that we can indeed develop a mid-latitude cyclone in the northern hemisphere. The thing is, its circulation, it will not be clockwise as the one on the southern hemisphere, and also its direction of movement will not be the same altogether.
Okay.
Yes, we do also have a mid-latitude cyclone in the northern hemisphere, but since here we are in South Africa, we focus mostly on the one in the southern hemisphere. Okay, so now 1.1.3, identify the front labeled X. So in this diagram, because they say that you need to answer the question 1.1.1 to 1.1.8 using this diagram. So in this diagram, this front that is labeled X, this one that I'm highlighting with yellow, what is this front, guys, in a cross-sectional view of a mid-latitude cyclone? Yes, Sam?
The cold front, sir.
Yes, it's a cold front, guys. Remember how the cold front looks like? It looks like a semicircular shape, or it's an arc shape. It's an arc-shaped type of front in a cross-sectional view. So in this case, it is our option C there. That's gonna be a cold front. So 1.1.3 is C. Now 1.4, I don't know how it got skipped here. I don't know what's wrong with this PDF. What is the question on 1.1.4? Let me just look for it. Okay, I'll just look for it at here because I think it got skipped on the other side. Yeah, 1.1.4 was asking us what is the general weather conditions experienced at Y. So let us look at Y. In this case, we are looking at this portion. Y, you can see why it is kind of ahead of the warm front. It's ahead of the warm front, this region ahead of the warm front. Now, their question is what are those general weather conditions that are experienced here at this point here at Y, which is ahead of the warm front. So they've given you a couple of options here to choose from, and you just need to choose the correct answer. Are we going to have clear skies and cool temperatures? Are we going to have cumulonimbus clouds and thunderstorms? Are we going to have heavy rain from nimbostratus clouds? Or are we going to have snowfalls and blizzards? What do you think the conditions are at the ahead of the warm front? Yes, Mukobe?
I think it's A.
Okay, why do you say it's A? Let me just go back to the diagram. Why do you say that at point Y, ahead of the warm front, it is A? Why A says it's clear skies and cool temperatures? Why would you say that here we have got cool temperatures and clear skies? Why do you guys, why would you say that, Mukobe?
Because the air is cool and the cool air just descends and does not rise, so it will not form clouds.
Okay, yes, I see someone else raising their hands. That's correct as well. Yes, Sam?
Well, sir, I have a problem with the reasoning because of the diagram. It shows Ifumoslapia, which is nimbus structures, sir.
Okay, so Sam is having a problem with your answer. Mukobe says now that here this diagram shows a cloud here, and Sam says this is a nimbostratus cloud because it is forming ahead of the warm front. Now you need to defend yourself. Why would you say that we are having clear skies at point Y?
Point Y is is ahead of the. Is it ahead? Like it is ahead of the warm front. So between in the warm sector, ahead of the warm front, the warm air it rises with that gentle pressure gradient. So it will not form cumulonimbus clouds because the warm air is not rising rapidly, and I don't know.
Yes, I mean, I can hear you. Okay, Sam, this nimbostratus cloud that you are seeing here, you can see that it is here at the warm front. Can you see that it is forming here at the warm front, this nimbostratus cloud? Do you see that, Sam? Do you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, so this
Yes.
nimbostratus cloud, it is forming at the home
Yes,
front.
sir.
Yes, so it means that it will be responsible for bringing rainfall around this region at the home front. So if we are having houses at this point around the home front, we are going to experience some rainfall. Not really heavy rainfall. What type of rainfall do we get from nimbostratus clouds? Is it heavy
Soft rain.
rainfall? No, it's light
soft
rain,
rain.
right? Yes, it's soft rainfall,
No,
or you can say it's light rainfall. So we expect to have light rainfall at the what? At the home front. Yes.
What about if I said soft rainfall?
Yeah, it's the same thing. Soft rainfall, or you can say light rainfall, or you can say moderate rainfall, somewhere around those points. Okay, so here when we are looking at why it is in ahead of the home front, guys, and we say that ahead of the home front we have got cool air. We have got cool air ahead of the home front. So this cool air will be responsible for cool temperatures. And remember that this cool air here at the region Y, it cannot rise to form those strong clouds. That's why we are going to have some clear skies. So this nimbostratus cloud will only affect the region around the home front here. But once you go to point Y, or to the region Y, you are now in a region where there is what? There is cool air, and this cool air, it doesn't rise to be able to form clouds. Yes, Trevor? Yes, Trevor, you can talk. Can you guys still hear me, or it's my network?
We can hear you, sir.
We can hear you, sir.
Okay, maybe Trevor's network is having a bit of a problem. You can just write in the chat box, then we'll read the answer. Okay, so here we're having cool temperatures and clear skies at region Y. Give a reason, guys, why would this answer be wrong? Answer number C. Why would C be a wrong answer in this particular case? Heavy rain from nimbostratus clouds. Why would you say that this is a wrong answer? Definitely. Yes, a Samsung A26 5G.
So what is this? That's why we don't form. What is this? Oh, so you say I must what is this? Debunk points B, right?
Yes.
So at points Y, what is this? We can't form cumulonimbus clouds. Only your cumulus or your nimbostratus clouds are formed. So it can't be B. And there's no thunderstorms because as who's this? As Mokove said, we have soft rain.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. You've debunked B. Let's hear someone else debunk C. Why would you say C is definitely not the answer here, even without really looking at the diagram? Yes, Sam.
Well, sir, nimbo structures are from the weak rainfall. Then the C says heavy rainfall, so it doesn't
Yes.
match as clash.
Yeah, so Vele, C is saying heavy rain from nimbostratus clouds. This is so contradictory, right? We cannot have heavy rainfall from nimbostratus clouds. So here the only option that you can take is A, because it is telling us of the region ahead of the warm front that is having cool air that results in cool temperatures as well as clear skies, since the cool air cannot rise and form clouds. Yes, Trevor?
So I want to ask what is the difference between showers and drizzles?
Okay, I think it's better described by a diagram. It's better described by a diagram because explaining it, it's a bit hard. Okay, showers. You know when there are showers. Okay, showers are easy to describe, because before it rains, let's just say that there is very light rainfall. I don't know what you call it in your language, but basically someone said last time Wuti showers it's not really that much rainfall, it's just pouring a bit, just a bit of showers, just like here I don't know if Google is going to copyright me for posting this video with their images, but showers is not really that much. It's not really rainfall. Yeah, it's just small droplets. So are you familiar with showers? Have you ever seen just small droplets? Like it's not really raining, it's just small droplets. Have you ever seen those, Trev?
Yes, sir.
Yes, those are showers. And then let me show you drizzles. It's almost the same, but there's a difference. Okay, it's light precipitation as well. So drizzles and showers, they're a bit different because showers, they don't really have too much air, but in a drizzle most of the times it is associated with so much wind. Okay, so we have got those little droplets or that light precipitation, but at the same time we've got a lot of wind that is pushing around the air. That is why it's something like this, but it's, you kind of a bit hard to differentiate because we usually use one word to describe it in our vernacular languages. But in simple terms, showers and drizzle, all of them, they are light precipitation. It's not really heavy rainfall. It's not that much big. All right.
Okay,
Yes.
sir. So,
Yes.
bangibuzisa angithi siyazi ukuthi behind the cold front angithi
Yes.
there's a light steady rainfall lapho.
Behind the cold front.
Bangibuzisa ngama-conditions behind the cold front. If ngenza i-mistake, maybe ngifaka maybe ngithi showers or maybe ngithi drizzles, still bangiphi wrong.
Remember, behind the cold front, we form cumulus clouds, okay? We form cumulus clouds. So the clouds that are formed behind the cold front, are known as cumulus clouds.
Uyangizwa?
Yes.
Sir?
Yebo. Okay, guys, is it my network or his again?
It's obvious, sir.
Okay, maybe it's his network, all right? So, but I'll explain what he asked. Trevor actually asked him if he was to say that there is drizzle occurring behind the yeah. So he says if he was to say that there is drizzle. Okay. I will get it. Try to get it fixed. All right. So Trevor here was saying that behind the cold front, what is actually the precipitation that we get? And in this case, the precipitation, you should know, guys, when we did weather conditions, we said that behind the cold front, we form cumulus clouds. And cumulus clouds, they are responsible for bringing showers. So whenever they ask you of the precipitation or of the type of rainfall that happens behind the cold front, that is going to be showers. That's the type of precipitation that we use. So showers is behind the cold front. Don't use the term light rainfall. Showers are not really rainfall, guys. It's just droplets of water pouring into the earth. There is not really rainfall. You wouldn't say it's raining when there are showers. They're just showers, G. Just like your shower, you see it like pours out in little droplets. That's why they are called showers in the first place. Are we guys together?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So 1.1.4, we've already explained quite a lot now. 1.1.4, our answer was A there. So in the region Y, we have got cool temperatures as well as clear skies. Then 1.1.5. 1.1.5, which of the following cloud type is associated with the front X? So someone identified the front X to be the cold front. So which cloud type is associated with the front X, which is our cold front here? Yes, Mukobe?
Cloud type HA. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, or at A. Okay, it's fine. Or the way you answered it, I kind of didn't get you properly. Okay, so Mukobe says that the answer is A actually. So the cloud type at answer A is cumulonimbus. So she's right indeed, because remember, guys, that when we have got a cold front, the cold front, it is associated with the upliftment of air. So the warm moist air in the warm sector, it rapidly rises to form what? To form those long, tall cumulonimbus clouds. So basically we can say that the cloud type that usually forms ahead of the cold front or at the cold front, it is cumulonimbus. Are we guys all together there?
Yes, sir.
All right. I think there was a hand here, but now the hand is no longer raised by Savage. Savage was raising their hand. You can talk if you have a question. All right. It looks like there's no question. 1.1.6. The mid-latitude cyclone above is in the stage. So we are asking ourselves, what is the stage of development? Yeah, in what stage of development is this mid-latitude cyclone? Looking at the cross-sectional view, because all the answers are coming from the cross-sectional view, what is the stage of development? What stage of development is this mid-latitude cyclone in? Yes, Mukore?
I think it's C.
C. It's a mature stage. Do you all guys agree, or someone has a different answer?
Agree.
All right. So basically it's the mature stage of a mid-latitude cyclone. If I say give an evidence for your answer, give one piece of evidence or one visible reason from this cross-section that will tell you that this is that tells us that this is indeed in its mature stage. Yes, Samsung A26.
Agree, sir.
Yes, Samsung A26. What visible reason?
The presence of a cold sector and a warm sector.
Yes, there is a warm sector and a cold sector. What else can you see, guys, from this cross section that tells you that this is indeed a mature mid-latitude cyclone? Mukove?
I can say that there's formation of cumulonimbus clouds, which resulted that in warm air that rises rapidly intensifying the low pressure.
Yes, you can say that there is actually warm air rising. You can see those arrows, guys. These arrows are representing a lot of warm air that is rising. What else can you say, Trevor? Trevor's network is gonna give us a bit of a problem. All right. And also, guys, the presence of a cold front and a warm front, a mature or a well-developed cold front and a warm front, it is evidence enough that this is mature. Yes, Trevor.
Sir. Sir, web stage is asina presence of warm sector and cold sector, sir. Now go to that stage.
Okay, so when we're at the wave stage, no matter at the development stage, we don't consider any warm sector or cold sector. We can only have a cold sector and warm sector once. Yes, I can hear you, Trav. We can only have the cold sector and the warm sector once we have a cold front and a warm front. But when we're at the wave stage latitude cyclone, if I can just rewind you guys based on the lessons that we have done, when we did the development stage of a mid-latitude cyclone, we didn't really have a cold front, we didn't really have a warm front. That is why we didn't really have a warm sector and a cold sector. All right, but the moment you get to the mature stage, that is when you start having a cold front, you start having a warm front. And if you're having a cold front and a warm front, that's when you can say that you can have a region that is filled with cold air, known as the cold sector. You can have a region that is filled with warm air, known as the warm sector. So at the wave stage, no matter during the development stage of a mid-latitude cyclone, we do not consider any warm sector, normal cold sector. We can only see that present in a mature stage of a mid-latitude cyclone. Are we together, Trev? Okay, it looks like Trevor's network is a bit glitching. Mukobe, you are raising your hand.
The nodes that you showed earlier, it shows that the low pressure system moves northward. I don't seem to understand that one still.
Okay, the low pressure system moves northwards. It's not really something that you depict using a diagram per se, because when I explained it from this perspective, having this a global shape. We say that the mid-latitude cyclone, it forms exactly at the polar front. Do you remember that, Moko?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we say that it forms exactly at the polar front or along the polar front or along this 60 degrees line of latitude. So when it is mature, it will start moving northwards, or it will start going up towards the north. All right. So let's just say this is your 30 degrees line of latitude. This is your 60 degrees line of latitude. The mid-latitude cyclone formed here at the polar front at the 60 degrees line of latitude. But during its mature stage, or when it matures, what does it do? It actually migrates, or it moves upwards. It moves northwards actually, or it moves towards the north. That is why when they ask what is the area of development of a mid-latitude cyclone, we say that it is between the 30 degrees and the 60 degrees line of latitude. Indeed, it forms here at the polar front, but when it's mature, it will start moving northwards. But in a cross-sectional view, you'll never be able to see that. You can only see that when you are given a diagram that has got lines of latitude. Are we together?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So just take that into consideration and let us continue. All right. So 1.1.6, it's a mature stage of a mid-latitude cyclone, because we can see a presence of a well-developed warm front and a cold front. Now 1.1.7, I don't think I've explained this before, but let's hear you guys. The change in the wind direction of the mid-latitude cyclone in the southern hemisphere is called yes, Mukobe?
It's called backing, B.
Yes, it's called backing. So basically, in the southern hemisphere, the wind direction changes. Okay, so it is called backing. So how does it change? Yes, Sam, you have a question?
Yes. So what do they mean by saying varying there in point A? Kahle.
Okay. So basically, the wind actually changes its direction, because remember that since this low pressure system, it is circulating. Remember, it's a low pressure system. So basically, the air circulates, or it rotates in a clockwise manner in the southern hemisphere. So if you are having the wind that is moving northwards, for example, let's just say this wind is moving northwards, because this low pressure system is circulating and in a clockwise way, what will happen to this wind? It will also start backing, or it will also change its direction, so that it starts circulating in a clockwise way. So they will never give you diagrams that explain this, but you guys should just know that when a mid-latitude cyclone is in the northern hemisphere, it actually changes its wind direction. So the wind direction actually changes in a mid-latitude cyclone. Why does it change? It is changing because the low pressure system is circulating in a clockwise direction. So if the wind is facing that way, let's just say the wind is facing that way, it will change its direction. It will change its direction because of the clockwise circulation of the low pressure system. But guys, don't get too much into understanding the diagrams that I'm making. This is just for you guys to have an idea, but they will never give you diagrams whereby you have to illustrate the concept of backing. But you guys should just have an idea that since a mid-latitude cyclone, or when a mid-latitude cyclone is in the southern hemisphere, its wind direction changes. It changes, and that change is known as backing. Are we together?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, don't focus too much on my diagrams, because my diagrams may not be that much accurate, but I'm trying my best to make an illustration so that you guys know that since it's a low pressure system that is circulating clockwise, if the wind is facing that direction, it will change and it will start facing this direction. Why did it change from this direction to that direction? Is because of the anti-clockwise rotation of the mid-latitude cyclone. And that concept is known as backing. and that's B for this case. When it's happening in the northern hemisphere, it is known as veering, it is not backing. But when it is happening in the southern hemisphere, that change in the wind direction is known as backing in the southern hemisphere. But in the northern hemisphere is known as what? As veering. Are we guys together?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let me just repeat one more time. The wind changes direction due to this mid-latitude cyclone. So let's just say, okay, let's just go back here. So the wind can change its direction due to this mid-latitude cyclone. So the mid-latitude cyclone, since we say it's a low pressure system, it rotates in a clockwise direction in the southern hemisphere. So if it happens that your wind, it was moving in this direction initially, what direction is this, guys? This wind here that I've drawn in this arrow, this maroon arrow, what is that direction? What can you say the direction is here? Where is the wind facing?
Northeast.
Yes, so this wind, it is facing northeast. It's a northeasterly wind. It's a northeasterly wind. All right. So because we are having a low pressure system, or we are having a mid-latitude cyclone, what does it do? It actually changes the direction of this wind. So instead of this wind blowing northeasterly, this mid-latitude cyclone, it will change the direction of the wind in such a way that it will actually face southeasterly. So instead of northeasterly, the wind will start blowing southeasterly. All right, so initially, or at first, it was blowing northeasterly, but because of this clockwise rotation, because remember that a mid-latitude cyclone, it rotates in a clockwise direction because it's a low pressure system. So because of this clockwise direction, it has changed, or it has caused this northeasterly wind to change its direction, to being a southeasterly wind, just like the one here that I've drawn in green. Do you guys all see that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, so in simple terms, this change in wind direction that happens because of a mid-latitude cyclone, it is caused by the clockwise rotation of the mid-latitude cyclone. So what actually caused the wind to back, or what actually caused the wind to change its direction? It is because the mid-latitude cyclone, it is rotating in a clockwise direction. So since it is rotating clockwise in this way, this wind, at first it was going northeasterly, but it is forced, or it is pushed to change its direction. That is why it is starting to rotate in a southeasterly manner. Are you guys kind of getting the sense?
Yes, sir.
Yes, so hey guys, there are no proper illustrations to illustrate this change in wind direction, but one day you guys will understand how it happens if you want to continue with geography later on. But for now, for grade 12, you are not given any illustrations for this point. 1.1.8 says the wind that causes the eastward movement of the mid-latitude cyclone is an wind. So since we say that the mid-latitude cyclone, it moves eastwards, or it moves from west to east, what wind is responsible for causing it to move in that direction? Yes, Mokobe?
I think it's warm westerlies.
Yes, it is the warm westerly winds. Remember, guys, that the warm westerly winds, let's just say this is your polar front, the 60 degrees line of latitude, where the mid-latitude cyclone forms. Remember that the warm westerlies, they actually blow in this way. The wind called the warm westerlies, they blow in this way. So if we have a mid-latitude cyclone here forming at the polar front, it will be driven to move towards the east, or it moves from west to east because of these warm westerlies. So we are going for a 10 minutes break, guys. Please make sure that you come back after 10 minutes. You join using the same link. Are we together? Hey Lapo, I know that you've been enjoying this wonderful video, and most likely you've been enjoying watching this handsome face in front of you, but sorry ladies, I'm taken. I just here to tell you that Educate is on the road to 100,000 subscribers by the end of 2025. So please click the subscribe button and click the notification bell so that you get notifications whenever I post new videos. I want you guys to pass. Okay, so if you make my dream true, I reach 100k subscribers, I will make your dreams come true. I will even get you to varsity. I will get you with 7 distinctions. Yes. So this was 1.2. We are done with multiple choice now. We go to 1.2. It says study the synoptic map below. So this is a synoptic weather map, or it's a synoptic weather chart. All right. Remember, guys, a synoptic weather map, it usually shows you the map of the country, and then next to the map of the country, it will show you the weather conditions. Usually, it uses these ISO bars to represent the atmospheric pressure. It also shows you all the pressure cells. So this is a synoptic weather map, or it's a synoptic chart. So guys, can you all see where South Africa is from this chart? Are you guys able to see South Africa? Yes, there is South Africa there. Let me just re-highlight it, since this diagram is a bit it's less transparent. I don't know who scanned this question paper, but do you see, guys, I'm tracing South Africa here. Do you see it, the one that I'm tracing?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's your South Africa then. And then I don't know, guys, if you can see the other features, but there's an H here, and then here there's an L here there's another H here there's a dot, there's nothing else, it's just a dot, then here is a written 3, and then here there's a line here, there's a line here, and this line has got spikes like this. This is the line that has got spikes, and here there's also another line that looks alike, and this line has got spikes. So in case you guys cannot see the diagram, I'm highlighting the important points here so that you guys are able to see. So are you guys able to see now the synoptic weather map? Can you see the South Africa, the land?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So now let's look at this and now answer the question 1.2.1 to 1.2.8. All right. So question 1.2.1, it asks us which season is represented by the synoptic weather chart. Which season is represented? Yes, Mukobe.
It's summer.
Okay, you say summer. All right. I want a reason why.
Because there's a low pressure cell approaching the interior, and also the date.
Okay, there's the date. Guys, the best way to identify the season that is provided in a synoptic weather map, it is to do what? It is to look at the date, because each and every synoptic weather map, or each and every synoptic weather chart, it has got a date. In this case, the date is 2024-01-14. So this means this is the 14th of January 2024. In January, guys, we are sure that it is summer, right? Yes, Telmo?
No, sir. I also want to say it's summer.
Okay, give me your reason. Why would you say it's summer?
Sir, because there's the low thermal on land.
Oh yes, there's a low pressure on the land. Yes, that also represents summer. When there's a low pressure cell on the land, or in the land in South Africa, you can say that represents that this is summer indeed. What else can you guys see that will definitely tell you that this is summer? Something that has to do with a mid-latitude cyclone. Yes, Mukobe?
I think I see a tropical cyclone near the other continent.
Okay, that's one thing. But for those who haven't reached the tropical cyclone, it will be a bit tricky. Yes, Telmo?
Sir, will it be fine if I say that the cold front is far away from?
Yes, that's what I wanted you guys to say, because we are still dealing with the mid-latitude cyclone. Yes, I hear you guys are going all out indeed, but we need to think about the mid-latitude cyclone. The mid-latitude cyclone, it is closer to the land during winter. Okay, it is closer to the land during winter. But when it is summer, the mid-latitude cyclone, it is further away, or it is far away from the land. So the fact that you can see a cold front that is very distanced, that is away from the Cape Town region or away from the land, you can see, guys, that this is the cold front. You guys can all see that, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, this is a cold front, and this is the land. They are far away from one another. So you can say that this is definitely summer, because a mid-latitude cyclone needs to be closer to the land when it is winter. Okay, so Trevor, you were raising your hand. Did you have a question?
I wanted to say the same thing.
Yes, Trevor.
So I wanted to say the same thing.
All right. 1.2.2 now says identify the pressure cell at 1. What is the pressure cell at 1? Let's hear Samsung A26 5G.
Kalahari low pressure cell.
Nope. Identify the pressure cell. Pressure cell. A Kalahari cannot be a low pressure. It cannot be a low pressure. Yes, Telmo.
So, will it be fine if, like I said, thermal low?
Yes, it's known as a thermal low. So the low pressure, you guys learned this low pressure in grade 11. That is why I didn't even explain it so far. So basically, if you find a low pressure cell in the middle of the country, or if you find the low pressure cell in the land or on the land, it is known as the thermal low pressure cell. Okay, the thermal low pressure cell, it is only found during summer, guys. So the fact that it is summer and there's a low pressure in the land, it means that this is definitely the heat low, or it's a thermal low. Yes, a Samsung A26.
Oh no, see, I just forgot to lower my hand. My bad.
Yes, okay. So it's known as a thermal low pressure cell. You guys learned this in grade 11. You must remember it in some way. Okay, it's a thermal low pressure cell. How do you see that it's a thermal low pressure cell? It is a low pressure cell that is found in the land or on the land. I'm sure you guys can recognize that this is the South African land. So on top of the land, when you see an L, that is a thermal low pressure cell. Or you can say that it's a heat low pressure cell. You can say it's a heat low. Okay. Let's hear a 1.2.3. Will the wind at 2 blow faster or slower than the wind at 4? So we've got 2. Let me just re-highlight so that you can see. This is 2 and then this is 4. I think my numbers are more clear now. Yes, Telmo?
I think that the wind at 2 will blow faster than the wind at 4.
Okay, so Telmo says that the wind at 2 will blow faster than the wind at 4. 2 is at this region, guys. This is 2 here. I've highlighted it again. And then 4, it is at the other region. This is 4. I'm highlighting it again here. So now Telmo says now the wind at 2 will blow faster than the one at 4. Okay, so what is the reason for that?
So suppose the isobars at 2 are much more closer together than at 4.
Yes, so the answer, how to answer this, it's faster. That's the answer, because they didn't say which one blows faster, 2 or 4. No, they say will the wind at 2 blow faster or slower, and in this case we say that it's faster, so the answer is faster. All right, the reason is, remember guys, when these lines known as isobars are closer to one another, that indicates that we've got a steep pressure gradient. A steep pressure gradient, in grade 11 you learned that it simply means that the air is moving faster or the wind is blowing faster. So the air will blow faster or the wind will blow faster when the lines are closer to one another, or when the pressure gradient is steep. But when you look at 4, guys, these lines are far away from one another, because you can see that this is the first line. This one that I'm highlighting is the first line, and then we've got another line that is so far away from it. So the lines are distant, they are far apart from each other. So it means that indicates a gentle pressure gradient, which means that the wind will blow slower. Are we guys getting it?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right, guys. Please do ask if you're not getting something. Now, what is the general direction? So we're looking now for the general direction of the movement of the system at 3. Okay, although we haven't done the system at 3, what is the system at 3, guys? To those who know it, we're still gonna do it later on anyways. What is the system at 3? Yes, tell me.
Cyclone.
Oh, so can I say tropical cyclone?
Yeah, it's a tropical cyclone. For now, we have only done the mid-latitude cyclone, but if you've got a low pressure system here, in the northwards part of South Africa, it is known as a tropical cyclone. We're still gonna do more details about it from next week onwards. But basically, the tropical cyclone, it moves opposite to the mid-latitude cyclone. When the mid-latitude cyclone moves eastwards, the tropical cyclone, it moves westwards, or it moves towards the west. So the general direction, you can say it is westwards, or you can say it is from east to west. It is the same thing. Or you can say it's towards the west, or you can say it is westwards. But we're still going to do details on the tropical cyclone. Don't worry about it too much. In which stage of development? Now the question comes, in which stage of development is the system at 3? Okay, it's still asking about the tropical cyclone as well. What is the stage of development? To those who have done the tropical cyclone before we did it, this tropical cyclone here, what stage of development is it in? Yes, Mokove?
I think it's development stage.
Why?
Because the eye is not yet fully developed, and the pressure towards the center is slowly reaching below 1000 HPA.
Okay, that's quite a good argument, but the eye looks like it's there, but it's fine. We're still gonna do a tropical cyclone. So for now, let's skip 1.2.5. It's fine. I still want you guys to, I will bring this question again when we do a tropical cyclone, so that we can ask again, was it, do you see the eye or do you not see the eye? Okay. Okay, let's just skip the tropical cyclone questions for now, because all of them, they are tropical cyclones. I didn't notice. Okay, so the remaining questions are based on tropical cyclones, but this test was supposed to be on mid-latitude cyclones, so it's fine. These 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these 5 questions is removed from the test, because I want you guys to only focus on the mid-latitude cyclone part. Okay, are we together?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we'll come back, guys. Don't worry. Next week, in a couple of days, we must do the tropical cyclone and cover all of this, so that you can be able to answer these questions clearly. Yes, Telmo?
Sir, we already wrote the test with the questions. That's why I was asking the other day if we also doing tropical cyclones as well.
Okay, it's fine, no problem. We'll just remove 5 marks from the test. I want to just question you on mid-latitude cyclone alone. All right, study the infographic on mid-latitude cyclones. So we have got an infographic here, guys. An infographic is just a graphic that has got information, so you guys have to read through this information. So the information provided now says, I don't know if you can guys see this, but I will read it for you quickly. Another cold front expected to influence the Western Cape today, with scattered to widespread rainfall expected. The rest of the country can expect fine and cool to warm conditions. And then now they say, advisory, be aware, disruptive rain. Warning, valid Thursday 18 July at 12 o'clock until Thursday 18 July at 11 o'clock p.m. Affected areas is Brede Valley, Drakenstein, Langeberg, Stellenbosch, and Winsberg. Associated hazards, localized flooding of sustainable informal or formal settlements, and minor motor vehicle accidents due to slippery roads and reduced visibility can be expected. Longer travel times are also likely on major roads. Localized disruption of essential services and localized mudslides and rockfalls are possible. So they are giving you hazards. It's like a newspaper, guys, coming and telling you that there's a cold front that is going to affect Cape Town, because it says that the Western Cape will experience certain conditions such as widespread rainfall, and this is in winter. All right, so let us now go to the question. Identify the fronts at 1 and at 2 on the synoptic map. What are the fronts at 1 and at 2? Can you guys see 1 and 2 properly? Yes, let's hear Telmo.
Front 1 is the cold front and front 2 is the warm front.
Yes, front 1 is a cold front, and then front 2 is a warm front. So front 1 is a cold front, front 2 is a warm front. Let me just zoom in the image for those who cannot see properly. Can you guys see this one here, where my little hand is moving here? Can you see the front 1? Can you guys all see it? Yes. Then front 2 here, this is a warm front. You can see by their shapes, guys. I've been preaching this for long. All right, let's do 1.3.2. all right, why do cold fronts affect the Western Cape in the winter season? Why do cold fronts affect the Western Cape in the winter season? What actually causes cold fronts or the mid-latitude cyclone to affect during the winter season? Yes, Mukobe. What causes the mid-latitude cyclones to occur during winter? Yes, Sam.
Sir, the reason it's because of our westerlies will be lifted and put as a shifter into the upward direction.
What is shifting, Gambe, into the upward direction?
Our westerlies will be lifted upward.
Our westerly winds.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we say it's known as the westerly wind belt, basically. We say that you can say that the westerly wind belt, the westerly wind,
Yes, sir.
the westerly wind belt shifts northward. Guys, please mute your mics if you've got a background sound. It shifts northwards during winter season. Yes, a Samsung A20, what, A26?
So, is it wrong if I said, if I added the fact that there is an abundance of cold air?
Where is the cold air coming from?
My reasoning was it's winter. Since it's winter, naturally the temperature is cold.
Well. It's not really cold air that causes mid-latitude cyclone. That's the thing. So we are not expected to say that it is the one that actually causes the mid-latitude cyclone to move towards Western Cape. All right, because the mid-latitude cyclone, the primary cause or the conditions required for it to form, remember, we need some warm westerlies and cold polar easterlies, and then when it is formed, it moves northwards. Okay, when it is mature, it moves northwards. It moves northwards because the westerly wind belt, remember guys, that the westerlies or the westerly wind belt is the one that controls the mid-latitude cyclone. So during winter, the westerly wind belt, it moves upwards. Also the intertropical convergence zone also moves upwards, so it will also pull the mid-latitude cyclone with it, in a sense. So if you just say that there's an abundance of cold air doesn't really cause the mid-latitude cyclone per se. Are you kind of getting the sense?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. What other reason, guys? There are many ways that you can talk about this. Yes, Sam.
Sir,
Okay. Yes.
Well, sir,
Mhm.
reason I say I can say because of anti-latitude cyclone, it is allowed what you call front it to move from the Western Cape to bring a rainfall.
Mhm.
Yeah, like in other words, I'm trying to say a cold front reach Galapagos, therefore there is going to be a rainfall.
But what causes it to be able to reach that point? That's the question. What causes the cold front to be able to reach the Western Cape part? Tell more.
sir, so basically, westerly wind belts, they move upwards, causing the mid latitudes also move up and affect Western Cape. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, the westerly wind belt shifts northwards. Don't use the term upwards. Use the term northwards, guys. When the mid latitude cyclone is shifting and going towards the Western Cape, it is shifting northwards. We use cardinal points. Don't say up, right? So basically, the westerly wind belts they shift northwards during winter, causing the mid latitude cyclone to also shift upwards. When they say explain it, you're gonna explain it in full, of course, and say that causing the mid-latitude cyclone to also shift northwards, Ranjan. Don't use the term upwards. Okay, so you can talk about that. You can also talk about the anticyclones, but you might not understand it for now because we're still going to get to them. Yes, Mukobe?
I wanted to ask, what if I said the cold front affect Western Cape because there's a cold front passing near the interior, and that is due to cold front occlusion.
Well, it's more like you are stating what you can see from the diagram. I'm sure you are seeing from the diagram that there's a cold front passing through the Western Cape.
Yes.
The question didn't really ask you the evidence that cold fronts are affecting Western Cape per se. They are asking the reason. Why are they in that position? If they'd said give a reason that Western Cape is affected, you would just say that you are seeing a cold front passing through the interior. Okay, but because here they want to know the reason, what actually causes the mid latitude cyclone to be closer to the land during that. You can also mention, guys, remember guys that the mid latitude cyclone, it moves from west to east. So guys, imagine this mid latitude cyclone, this one. Can you see this mid latitude cyclone, this small one that I'm highlighting, this one?
Yes, sir.
The one that I'm highlighting green is a mid-latitude cyclone, and it is moving from west to east. So it is moving from west to east, or it is moving eastwards. So definitely it will affect Western Cape. Do you guys kind of get the sense? Like imagine it moving and moving and moving. It will definitely move through the Western Cape. Do you guys kind of see that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, you can also mention that mid-latitude cyclone moves eastwards. So you can say that a mid-latitude cyclone moves eastwards. A mid-latitude cyclone moves eastwards, or you can say it moves from west to east. Eastwards, causing it to pass through Western Cape in winter. So this causes it to pass through the Western Cape. Okay, so it's fine. Let's just take those for now, but as time goes on, you are still going to learn more about this and stuff. So let's go to 1.3.3. What do we call the mid-latitude cyclones that occur after each other, like the ones that are shown on the synoptic weather map? The mid-latitude cyclones that occur after each other. Let us hear from Sam.
It is a family of mid-latitude cyclone.
Yes, it's a family of mid-latitude cyclone, not a group, guys. It's a family of a mid-latitude cyclone. For family of mid-latitude cyclones, you use the term family. So, like the diagram provided here, the synoptic weather map, it has got two mid-latitude cyclones that are following each other, that are occurring after each other, one after the other. So it's a family. Yes, Samsung A26.
So what's the difference between a family of mid-latitude cyclones and a succession?
It is the same thing, but the succession is more like an active, it's an, what do you call this, an adverb. Okay, whatever. It's either, yeah, it's an adverb actually.
A synonym.
No. It's an adverb. The succession is an adverb. It explains what is happening here. It explains that their succession simply means following each other. Okay, when you say that something's succession simply means following each other, but we have a proper term, or with a proper name that we give to those mid-latitude cyclones that are succeeding from each other, or that are in succession. So basically, the proper term that we use is family of mid-latitude cyclones.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, let's proceed. 1.3.4. Explain why do mid-latitude cyclone cause the hazardous conditions that are indicated in the warning notice? Because the warning notice told us that we're going to have localized flooding. We also were warned about the vehicle accidents. We're going to have accidents due to slippery roads. We're also going to have reduced visibility and stuff like that. So explain now, Mukobe, why do mid-latitude cyclones cause these hazardous conditions?
Because mid-latitude cyclones are lead to formation of cumulonimbus clouds, which is associated with heavy rains. So heavy rains bring flooding to the informal settlement.
Yes, so here we're explaining the first hazard that was provided in this infographic. They said localized flooding. So Mukobe was explaining about flooding. She said that mid-latitude cyclone is associated with cumulonimbus cloud. So a mid-latitude cyclone is associated, or they are associated with cumulonimbus clouds. And these cumulonimbus clouds, they do what? They bring heavy rainfall, or they are responsible for torrential rainfall, which bring torrential rainfall. You explain it, guys. Oh, the mark allocation, please mind it, guys. This is 2 by 2. It means that you have to give 2 points for 2 marks. So when the mark allocation comes in geography and they say 2 times 2, it means this is 2 points for 2 marks each. Are you guys understanding that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, so please you look at the mark allocation. So if it's 2 marks, you have to explain usually, which bring torrential rainfall resulting in flooding. So we've explained the flooding part of the hazard. Yes, Sam. Let's hear you explain some other one.
Okay, so another point, I think it is strong winds can damage armor building, uproot trees, and cause rough seas and poor visuality.
Okay, I will only take the poor visibility. I will only take the poor visibility because remember this. Okay, you are right. Your answers are right. But now the question is, they say you need to explain why the mid-latitude cyclone caused the hazardous conditions that are indicated in the infographic. So you must tell us about something that has been indicated in the infographic. I will zoom in the infographic for the last time, one more time, so that you guys can see what is written on it. Localized flooding. You must explain about localized flooding. Susceptible formal and localized flooding of susceptible formal and informal settlements, and minor motor vehicle accident due to slippery roads and reduced visibility. So you must explain these hazards that are provided. Yes, you are right when you say that strong winds can damage buildings. Yes, but now they said explain what they said. Explain why the mid-latitude cyclones are causing the hazardous condition indicated. So you need to explain based on these ones indicated. Okay, so let's hear you talk about reduced visibility. I heard you saying something about reduced visibility. Sam, what causes it, or what in the mid-latitude cyclone is responsible for that? Okay, yes, Samsung A26.
I'm not sure, but what is this? Whenever the nimbus stratus clouds are formed, don't they lead to what is this? Showers, which, as you said, showers they come with mist. So whenever there's mist, there will be poor visibility.
Okay, that's cool. That's one thing. But actually, in reality, what causes the poor visibility is the rainfall. Guys, usually when it is raining, if you are in a car, you cannot see the way. Have you guys ever been in a car and it was raining at that time, like heavy rainfall?
Yes, there.
Yes.
So when there's heavy rainfall, guys, you really cannot see anything. No matter what cloud it is, it can be cumulus, it can be cumulonimbus, nimbus stratus, but whenever it is raining and then you are moving with your car, those droplets, you need to keep on keep on using that, what do you call this windshield or whatever. But basically there's always a reduced visibility. You cannot see the road properly when there's rainfall. So the rainfall that is coming from this mid-latitude cyclone, it is the one that leads to poor visibility. Yes, Mukobe.
What if I said because mid-latitude cyclone bring heavy rainfall,
Yes.
so the heavy rainfall usually fill up the ground with more water, so it may lead to mudslides and rockfalls.
Yes, muddy slides is one of the things, guys. When it's raining so much, you guys are going to have muddy roads, especially if you are not having tar roads in your area. Maybe you guys are using dusty roads, and then it rains. Those roads are going to be muddy. And if they are muddy, they're going to be slippery. Like, as in that sense, when you are moving with your car on a muddy road, your car is likely to get into a motor vehicle accident. That's a hazard that has been provided in this infographic. You are explaining it as well. So rainfall from the mid-latitude cyclone, it actually leads to poor visibility.
Making any sense, Joe. You think they'll see.
It leads to poor visibility. That's one of them. And then the one from Mukobe says heavy rainfall. Obviously, the heavy rainfall for the mid-latitude cyclone causes muddy roads. And these muddy roads, or you can say it's slippery roads, because they're actually slippery. Okay, muddy roads or slippery roads. Don't know if the spelling is correct. Leading to motor vehicle accident. You guys should just talk about the hazard that are provided. Even the poor visibility, guys. The poor visibility is one thing that can also lead to motor vehicle accident. Are you guys aware of that?
Yes.
Yeah, guys, if you cannot see properly, there and you are driving, you cannot see properly and you are driving, what will happen? The poor visibility will actually cause you to not see the road properly, and that can lead to what? That can lead to those accidents. You guys can talk of many things, guys. It's not that these are the only answers that are that are available. You guys can further talk about more things. All right. There are many things. The mudslides and the rock falls that have been explained, they are part of the hazards as well. You can talk about rock falls. You know, guys, that when there's a lot of rainfall, there are also rock falls and mass movements, and those are dangerous for us as people, and those are caused by the also by the strong winds from the mid-latitude cyclones. So do you guys get the sense of this question? Are we getting each other, guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it looks like I don't have space here. Let me just increase the space. Right. All right. Okay. So let's finish up, guys. The last question, 1.3.5.
This experience is Nick the girl with all shaver late.
1.3.5. Telmo, please mute your microphone. Yes, Sam.
Okay, sir. The answer for 3.5, it says, I think they will bring winter rainfall, which fills the dams and rivers.
Okay, let's read the question first before we answer it, but you are right. Discuss the positive impact of mid-latitude cyclones on the environment of the Western Cape. We want the positive things about this whole mid-latitude cyclone thing. Sam told us that the mid-latitude cyclone bring winter rainfall. So mid-latitude cyclones bring winter rainfall because they occur in winter, but they also bring cumulonimbus clouds. So they bring winter rainfall, or they are responsible for winter rainfall. What does the winter rainfall do for us, Sam? What does the winter rainfall do for us? What's positive about it?
The positive effect of winter rainfall, sir. Like it brings a lot of rain, which will help that rivers can be filtered, but it's not a dangerous rain.
Yeah, they can. Rain. Exactly. So the winter rainfall can fill the rivers. That's one positive thing. Or you can say the winter rainfall can actually can be used to grow winter crops, which can grow winter crops. Yes, Khalifelo.
It helps build infrastructure.
There?
It helps build infrastructure.
It does what to infrastructure?
It helps build.
I cannot hear you properly. Can you try to speak closely to your microphone? Your sound is a bit muffled.
I said it helps build infrastructure.
Oh, it helps build infrastructure.
Yes, sir.
Yes, that's one of the things that you can use winter rainfall for. Yeah, that's one of the things that you can use winter rainfall. Any benefit that you can use for winter rainfall, even this point of replenishing water in rivers, as Sam said, if we can have a lot of rainfall during winter rainfall actually replenishes water in rivers. Winter rainfall, as long as it's a positive thing, guys, replenishes water in rivers. So we are going to a break. We're going to attend to your questions, Samsung A26. When you come back, we are going to a 10 minutes break. So it replenishes water in rivers as well as dams, and you know that water can be used to do many things. So let's go for a 10 minutes break so that we come back and finish up with the corrections. Hey Lapo, I know that you've been enjoying this wonderful video and most likely you've been enjoying watching this handsome face in front of you, but sorry ladies, I'm taken. I just here to tell you that Educate is on the road to 100,000 subscribers by the end of 2025. So please click the subscribe button and click the notification bell so that you get notifications whenever I post new videos. I want you guys to pass. Okay, so if you make my dream true, I reach 100k subscribers, I will make your dreams come true. I will even get you to varsity. I will get you with 7 distinctions. Yes. Let's continue, guys. What other positive impacts can you guys think of a mid-latitude cyclone? Yes, Trevor.
Say growing winter crop production can increase GDP.
Yes, guys, you can make a follow-up point. You are allowed to make a follow-up point because you have already told us that the mid-latitude cyclone brings water, winter rainfall, jalo, which can grow winter crops. Now, growing these winter crops is now a follow-up point. Growing these winter crops can actually increase the GDP. Okay. Growing the winter crops can increase the gross domestic product of the country. Remember guys, the gross domestic product, it is the total value of all the goods and services produced in a country within a given year. So if we're also able to produce crops during winter in a season whereby most people are starving, then that can be beneficial. Yes, Sam?
Well, sir, another point I think I was going to say, rainfall supports agriculture, especially wheat and supports agriculture. Okay.
Well, it is the same thing as this point. Agriculture, yes, even livestock farming can, you can also include it and say that basically, remember guys, that when there is enough rainfall, basically there will be more pasturage for the livestock to feed on, because agriculture, guys, is in 2 ways. We have got crop farming, we also have got livestock farming. So agriculture can be in 2 ways. We have already talked about the winter crops. Now we can talk about the livestock and say that the winter rainfall yes.
What about recharge groundwater, sir? I'm not sure about that one. Recharge groundwater.
Recharge.
Yes, sir.
Okay, try to use another word besides recharge. Recharge kind of, it sounds like you're charging something. Yes, Trevor.
Say, I have another point, Nessa.
Yes.
Okay, since mid-latitude cyclone is associated with heavy winds, so it means more electricity can be generated in the country using the hydro energy, electricity.
Don't mix 2 things. You mix 2 things that are a bit contrasting. If you want to talk about wind, you must talk about electricity generated from wind. If you want to talk about hydroelectricity, you must tell us about water, because hydroelectricity is produced by flowing water. All right. So at least take 1 point. Don't mix them and say that heavy winds or strong winds will generate hydroelectricity. No, when you say hydroelectricity, we're talking about electricity generated from flowing water. You guys can kind of get the sense, Trev.
Oh yeah, so I made a mistake. I thought it is the one using the wind.
Okay, yes, it's fine. So strong winds can be used to generate wind powered electricity. So we've got this electricity that is wind powered. Yes, Trevor.
Yeah, sir. And also, angithi if mid-latitude cyclone iletha heavy rainfall, so it means ama-dams abaningi azoba filled, and then if ama-dams amaningi are-filled, still phinde sizoyenza i-hydro energy, yeah, siba ne-electricity eningi if ama-dams amaningi agcwele.
Yeah, exactly. You're just taking a follow-up of this point. You continue, guys. The points are infinite here, guys. There are many positive things or positive impacts that you can talk about. So, but as long as you give the cause and you give the effect, give us the cause, give us the result. For example, the mid-latitude cyclone bring winter rainfall. This is the cause. So what is the effect of that winter rainfall? It can be used to do what? To grow winter crops. So just you give your answer, then you qualify your answer by giving its effect or something like that. There are many other points, follow-up points that you guys can take, but we just want only 2 from these ones. So do you guys kind of get the sense of how we can answer such questions?
Yes.
All right. Yes.
So I'm a follow-up question. Ana 1 mark or still apata 2-2?
Apata 2 nakon, still 2-2. So for example, when you say that a mid-latitude cyclone, it brings winter rainfall which can grow winter crops, that's 1 point for 2 marks. And if you make a follow-up and say that growing winter crops can increase the GDP of the country, that's another separate 2 marks. That's why you're supposed to make them 2 different points. Don't say the mid-latitude cyclone bring winter rainfall which can grow winter crops and winter crops will increase GDP. No, don't mix them into 1 point, because you will lose 2 marks there. But if you separate this point properly, you give us 1 point. A mid-latitude cyclone, it is bringing winter rainfall, and this winter rainfall is used to grow crops. All right, and then now you can talk about a separate point of about growing these winter crops. You say that growing these winter crops can increase GDP. That's another separate 2 marks.
Yes, sir.
Yes, there are many other things that you can talk about, guys, here, but it's just because of time we have to kind of cut down on the points. Yes, Sam?
So, sir, do you mind if like usually if you give us some homeworks under geography, give us some question la paragraph form?
Okay, no problem. No problem. We'll look for more. Okay, so let us continue now, guys, and do the last question. It's already late, our time is already over, but we need to finish up. Refer to the extract below on protective measures to limit the cold front impact on crops. So we want to limit the cold front's impact on crops. All right, now the heading says the advice of Dr. Mpho Matitibane. Farmers can take protective measures to limit the impact of cold fronts on their crops and livestock. Where possible, farmers can cover their crops. This is one thing that Dr. Matitibane is saying. Cover their crops with protective material using windbreaks. That's another point. And also providing adequate shelter for their livestock. It can reduce the impact of the cold weather. So you guys can get the sense of the paragraph that here Dr. Mpho Matitibane is trying to tell us that farmers can actually reduce these impacts of mid-latitude cyclones, because we know that we do have these negative impacts caused by a mid-latitude cyclone on farmers and livestock and all that. So now they've already given, Dr. Mpho is already giving us points on how we can try and mitigate that as farmers. Now 1.4.1, what is a cold front? Any way of defining a cold front is acceptable, guys. Simple way. What is a cold front? Okay, guys, you raise your hand. Use the feature of raising your hand so that I can be able to see who's raising up. Let's hear Samsung A26. What are you saying?
There isn't a cold front a boundary which a boundary which separates 2 different air masses which has cold air behind it.
Yes. I want the cold air behind it part. So it's a front that consists of cold air behind it. because each and every front, it separates two different MSs. Every front, even the warm front, it separates two different MSs. But the significance, why do we call it a cold front, is because it has got cold air behind it. Yes, Sam?
So if I say is a boundary where cold front moves and push under the warm air.
It's about, you are explaining what a cold front is, so you cannot mention the term cold front within the explanation per se. What is the cold front itself?
It is a boundary where cold air moves and pushes under warm air.
Yes, you are now saying it's it's a boundary where cold air pushes, or it moves, or it undercuts warm moist air. That is correct. Okay, no, not the first one that you said, but yes, in simple terms, a front that consists cold air behind it, or you can say it's a boundary of air that has got cold air that is undercutting some warm air. All right.
Yes, sir.
Yes, so that is more like anything around this context. Not that you guys should have a specific definition, that all of you should write one definition. No, we want to have the same context, as long as you guys are still describing the cold front that we know. State from the extract. Guys, the question says that you should state whatever that you're going to state, you should state it from the extract. State the 3 measures that can lessen the impact of cold weather from the extract. What are those 3 measures? Yes, Sam?
Use windbreakers.
Yes, we've been told to use windbreakers because remember that Dr. Mpo Matitibane here says that farmers can take protective measures to limit the impact of cold fronts on their crops and livestock. Where possible, farmers can cover their crops. That's one thing. With protective material, they can use windbreaks, or they can provide adequate shelter. It's something that's written from the extract. So Sam says we can use what? We can use windbreaks. So I'm just quoting it exactly as it is. Using windbreaks. Guys, what do we use windbreaks for? Why do we have to use windbreaks? What do you think we use windbreaks for? Guys, yes, explain what is windbreaks. What do you think we use windbreaks for? Yes, Samsung A26.
To protect, firstly, to protect the infrastructure from being blown away.
Yes, okay, but here we are talking about the farmers, for which you have to be specific. What type of infrastructure would these farmers be using?
To protect the farmhouses where the animals live at, and also to protect the crops.
Yes, you separate those points indeed. So guys, remember that since a mid-latitude cyclone, it brings heavy and strong winds, we need to protect the crops, because the crops can also be blown away by this strong wind. So if you plant your crops and they are blown away, that's gonna be bad. Even your livestock, they cannot endure such weather conditions. So you need to strengthen your infrastructure in such a way that it breaks the wind from affecting. Yes, Trevor.
The windbreaks can also be used to prevent soil erosion.
Yes, they can also be used to prevent soil erosion. Remember, guys, that the soil can be blown away. The top fertile soil can be blown away by strong winds. So putting these windbreaks, they can actually do what? They can actually prevent or reduce soil erosion. So if they ask you to explain, guys, you guys can explain that. But for now, we are just stating, or we are quoting from the extract. What else is provided in the extract as a measure to lessen the impact? Let's hear, guys. What else? Yes, Sam?
Shelter.
Do what?
Educate shelter.
Providing adequate shelter for livestock. So this is providing, you're just taking it from the extract, guys, from the passage that you are given. So this is providing adequate shelter for livestock. We're just stating them, guys, the measures. Don't explain anything, all right? Just stating them. What other measure did Dr. Matithivela provide? Yes, Trevor?
Cover their crops.
Yes, they can cover crops with protective material. So cover their crops with protective material. All of these are measures that Dr. Matithivela gave so that these people, these farmers, could protect their crops from impacts of the mid-latitude cyclone. All right, 1.4.3, describe the changes in the weather. So now describe the changes in the weather associated with the passing of a cold front. So what changes in the weather are associated with the passing of a cold front? When a cold front passes, what weather conditions can it result in? Yes, Trevor?
The temperature decreases as the cold front approaches.
Yes, there's an extreme. Okay, let's describe it first. That first one, there's an extreme drop in temperature. You can use your own words indeed, but there's an extreme drop in temperature. You can say there's an extremely cold weather. This is the same thing. There's an extreme drop in temperature. Why? What is causing the drop? Because you guys can see that the question says this is 3 times 2. So it means we're having 3 points for 2 marks each. So for 2 marks, remember guys, you need to give the cause and an effect. So we already know that the effect is here. We're going to have extreme drop in temperatures, or we're going to have an extremely cold air. But what is causing the extremely cold air? Trev, finish up your answer.
It is because the cold air is approaching, say.
Yes, because there's cold. Yes, because there's cold air. Because there's cold air behind the cold front. So there's an extreme drop in temperature due to the cold air behind the cold front. So this is due to the cold air behind the cold front. That's why they ask you to define what a cold front is, so that you guys can get a sense from this cold air behind the cold front. When they give you a point and you have to answer for 2 marks each, you have to give a cause and an effect. Okay, give us the cause and give us the result from it. Let's hear Sam.
Rain or storms may develop.
What?
Rains or storm may develop.
Yes, so we're gonna have what type of rain? Try to be specific. What type of rain are we gonna have?
Strong rain, sir.
Yes, we're gonna have try to use heavy rainfall. Strong, try to use the word strong for winds, all right? Yes, so we're gonna have heavy rainfall, or you can say we're gonna have torrential rainfall. So we can have heavy rainfall, or we can have torrential rainfall. And this heavy rainfall, it is actually due to what? Give us the reason that is causing this change in the weather pattern. This is due to the formation of a cumulonimbus cloud. Because remember guys that a cold front, when it passes with what? With a cumulonimbus cloud. So this is due to the cumulonimbus clouds ahead of the cold front. To the cumulonimbus clouds ahead of the cold front. So you guys gave a cause and an effect. You give what is causing. In this case is the cumulonimbus clouds that is causing what? Causing heavy or torrential rainfall. This is the effect. So it's a cause then an effect, or it's a cause then a result from the cause. Okay guys, what else? Since the 1-3 here, what other weather conditions do we expect? Yes, let's hear from, who's this? Trevor?
Say the wind change direction due to the circulation of air. Yeah, of air. Due
Yes,
to the
guys.
clockwise circulation.
Yes, that's one of the things that happens. There's a change in the wind direction. Okay, there's a change in the wind direction. But let's see, can we actually classify that as a weather condition? The change in the wind direction, because here they say describe the changes in the weather. We're not talking about weather, guys. We're talking about the atmospheric conditions or in a short period of time. We're talking about precipitation, we're talking about temperature, we're talking about the cloud cover, we're also talking about the humidity or the pressure. It's fine. So usually work around those points. So far we've already talked about the temperature and the precipitation. Okay, so the backing, yes, it is a correct answer. It's something that happens in the southern hemisphere, but can we really classify it as weather? A bit no there. All right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, because the wind is just changing direction. What else? What else can you guys think of? Yes, Sam. Yes,
In temperature, sir.
we've already talked about the drop in. We've already talked about the drop in temperature.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, guys, you can talk about the winds, the wind speed there. The cold front, remember, guys, that it has got what? It has got a steep pressure gradient. Yes, 826.
Yes, I wanted to say the point you just raised, which is
Yes.
strong winds.
So you can say strong winds or you can say gale force winds, because the winds that we find with the cold front, they are very strong. So these are strong winds caused by, or these are strong winds due to what? Due to the steeper pressure gradient at the cold front. Remember, guys, when you've got a steeper pressure gradient, it means that the wind will be blowing faster. So steeper pressure gradient at the cold front, because we know that the cold front has got a steeper pressure gradient. Yes, Sam?
So a cloud cover and air pressure is an increase.
Yes, okay, don't mention them as a 1 point. Kumbulan, guys, separate these points so that you can get more marks. Don't say a cloud cover and no. Mention one weather conditions and explain it separately. Talk about cloud cover, Sam. Let's hear.
Well, so a cloud cover it will increase ibe khona. Therefore, after this process, izoeraseka.
Okay, yes, cloud cover. We usually don't use the word increases. We usually say that it is overcast. So when there's a lot of clouds in the atmosphere, in the upper atmosphere, it means we usually use the term overcast. So the cloud cover is overcast usually. So cloud cover is overcast. It simply means that there's a lot of clouds in the upper atmosphere. But remember, this is like a 2 marks per question per point. What is causing this cloud? What is causing a lot of clouds in the upper atmosphere when a cold front passes? Why do we have an overcast cloud cover, Trevor?
So angithi the cold front ihamba ne cumulonimbus.
Yes. So this is due to the formation of cumulonimbus clouds. So this is due to the formation. This is due to the formation of cumulonimbus clouds. That's why we have a lot of clouds. So you can say the cloud cover increases, or you can say that there will be a lot of clouds. The cloud cover is overcast. But usually try to use the term such as overcast rather than using the term increases. It's still acceptable. There are many things that you can say, guys. You can talk about atmospheric pressure, all right? Atmospheric pressure. What happens to atmospheric pressure when a cold front passes?
Increases.
It increases. Why does atmospheric pressure increases?
Because the cold front say ihambelana ne-cold heavy air.
Yes, so there's an increase in atmospheric pressure there. So atmospheric pressure increases, and the reason for this increase in atmospheric pressure, it is due to the cold sinking air, cold heavy air, due to cold heavy sinking air. Please try, whenever you describe pressure, try to tell us about the air. Is it heavy or is it light? Because pressure is all about that. All right, so you need to tell us whether it's heavy or it's light. You don't just say cold air. Try your best to say cold heavy sinking air. This cold and heavy sinking air, it kind of emphasizes better that we're having a higher pressure here. Are we guys together? Are we guys together there? Yes, Trevor.
So ngicela ukubuza se i-atmospheric pressure sizoyifila thina ukuthi manje se-increasile if i-cold front iyadlula or ngesiyifile ngesiyizwe nje fana ne-temperature.
Well, uzoyizwa, you will feel the atmospheric pressure that it has increased. Phela atmospheric pressure is more like how strong the wind is. That's why we say that when we have got a steeper pressure gradient, then we have got strong winds. So if you are hearing, if you are feeling the air hitting you faster or the air putting more pressure on you, there is a strong atmospheric pressure. There is something that you can observe just from the strong winds itself. So basically saying that we have got a pressure, it simply means that the air is forcing you, is putting a force on you, or it simply means that the wind is strong in simple terms. All right, so it's something that we can feel indeed.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, guys, there are many other things that you can think of here, but because of time, let us finish up so that you can sleep. I can see that you guys are enjoying this session, but we need to finish up. Oh, I don't have space anymore. Let me just increase space here. Okay, guys, let's finish up. Last question, which is going to be question 1.4.4. All right, so now 1.4.4 now says, in a paragraph of approximately 8 lines, explain the negative impact of cold fronts on crops, specifically on crops. Don't say anything else about something different. Talk about crops only. So I want you guys to explain, how do cold fronts affect crops, specifically crops only. Now guys, paragraphs question, the mark allocation is 4/2. So it means we are going to write 4 points for 2 marks per point. Simply that, it doesn't really mean that you have to have 8 lines indeed, but you must have a maximum of 8 lines. Okay, so basically it's 4 points for 2 marks each. Let us hear Sam. In a paragraph of 8 lines, what are those negative impacts?
The very low temperature can cause a frost.
Yes, so
damages the plants.
Yes, so these extremely cold conditions, or this extreme cold, this is the same thing as talking about temperature, guys. If I say extreme cold, it just means that there's an extremely low temperature. So extreme cold, that's the cause. What does it do? Extreme cold weather can damage crops. It can damage crops. Let's hear Trevor.
Se ngicela ukubuza se, before sithi sifika kule part yokuthi sithi extreme cold weather, or maybe sisifaka maybe ama heavy rains, akubelanga siqale si-explain ukuthi iqala kuphi, fana nokuthi cold front pushes warm moist air, izinto ezinjalo. Abasifuni kulama question aso se.
Okay, so yes, you are right. You are supposed to explain how did we end up having extreme cold weather, but you already did that in 1.4.3. That's why they made these questions to follow each other.
Oh, okay, sir.
Yeah, but if you didn't really write 1.4.3, you will need to explain where is this extreme cold weather coming from. But because on 1.4.3 you already explained that there's an extreme drop in temperature, or there's an extremely cold weather, okay, due to the cold air behind the cold front. So you've already explained the origin of this drop in temperature, okay. So now even when you go to the follow-up question and talk about it, you've already explained where is it coming from. All right.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. What else, guys? What else can have a negative impact? Yes, Trevor.
Heavy rainfall, sir, can
Okay.
result in flooding.
So we've got heavy rainfall, which can result in flooding. Yes, heavy rainfall can result. So the cause is heavy rainfall. What is the effect of that heavy rainfall? Can result in the flooding of those crops. Can result in flooding of the crops. Yes, Sam.
Strong winds
Mhm.
can break plant stems. So, yeah, strong wind can break winds
Yes, so strong winds
and can break plant stems and blow soil away.
Okay, let's cut the Sam. Don't mix points. I repeat, guys. Talk about one point and finish it. Strong winds can can break the stems of plants. Full stop. Then you can tell us that strong winds can also wash away the top fertile soil, can cause soil erosion. Don't mix the points, guys. You'll lose marks. All right. Strong winds can break the stems of the crops. Can break the stems of the crops. Hey guys, my English is somewhat cooked up, but you can say that strong winds can break the stems of the crops, or they can actually break the crops themselves. That's 1 point. That's 2 marks. You can talk about soil erosion. That's another different points. Now let me talk about soil erosion. As Sam said, it is still caused by strong winds, so I'm allowed to also say that the cause is strong winds, and these strong winds can do what? Can wash away the top fertile soil, or it can cause soil erosion, or it can erode. Let's just say it can erode the top fertile soil. It's a negative impact on the crops, because the crops require that top fertile soil to grow. Can erode the top fertile soil, and this can have a negative impact on crops, because remember, guys, that the crops require fertile soil. What else, guys, can you say? What else, guys? What else? Is it like just over like this? Do you guys have any more other points? Take 5, take 4. Okay, Trevor.
So, soil erosion can wash nutrients away for the crops.
Okay, when the strong winds, okay, that's one follow-up point that you can say, and say that soil erosion, or when the top fertile soil is eroded, basically this results in the essential, or in the important nutrients, So the important nutrients that makes the soil to be fertile are blown away. They are being blown away. So are we done, guys, with our answer? Have we given the cause and an effect? Or can you just put a full stop on this answer right now? Or would you say that there is something missing? Because I'm saying soil erosion results in those important or essential nutrients being blown away or being washed away. Okay, so did we? Okay, give me the cause and the effect in this statement. Give me the cause and give me the results, because we already know that the cause is soil erosion, that is blowing away nutrients. What is the effect of that now on the crop? Because remember guys that our answer must explain the negative impact of cold front on crops. Everything must redirect back to crops, so you must connect this sentence to crops. What does this have to do with crops when nutrients are being blown away? Yes, Samsung A26.
When the soil is when what is this? The soil erosion takes place. The soil becomes less fertile, so it makes it harder to plant more crops in the future.
Yes, so this actually makes it harder for crops to grow. Guys, you need to give the cause then an effect on the crops, specifically on the crops, making it harder for crops to grow. So you guys can talk of more points. These are not only the answers. You guys just need to give us those dangerous or harmful effects. But remember guys, when they say a paragraph of 8 lines, they don't really require you to write 8 lines without non-stop. They want 4 points for 2 marks each. And how do you do the 2 marks? You explain the cause, what is causing something, and you tell us the effect of that thing. The effect is just the result from that cause. For example, we have got a cause which is extreme cold weather. What effect does it have? It can damage crops. We have got a cause which is heavy rainfall. What effect does it have? It actually floods the crops. We have got strong winds. That's the cause. What effect does it have? It actually breaks the stems of the crops. So as long as you give the cause and an effect, then you can do what? Then you can now say that you've answered fully for the 2 marks. Are we guys all together? Are we guys together? Yes. So let's close the session, guys. It's already past the whole 2 hours now. We're still doing the same session. We are almost approaching 3 hours. So let us close, guys, with a prayer. Who would like to pray for us today? We've got only 2 minutes remaining before the Zoom meeting closes for another break. So let us pray so that we can go. When you come back, we are doing tropical cyclone. Let us pray. Who is praying for us today?
Pray, sir.
Okay, we'll listen to you. What's your name, Vel? Samsung A26. What's your name?
Mpo.
Oh, it's Mpo Mahadiseng, ne?
Mahanidisa.
Oh, Mahadinisa. Oh, yeah, it's fine. Let's hear the prayer from Mpo. Let's all close our eyes and our mics.
Our Heavenly Father, we come to you, Father, to thank you for the wonderful studying session, Father. I pray, Father, to thank you for the wonderful study session, Father. We pray that you help us remember everything that we have learned and took away from this lesson, Father. I pray that you give us more wonderful studying sessions, Father. I pray, Father, you help us with our academics, Father. I pray you give us the discipline required so that we can be able to push and study more, Father. I pray you help us. I pray you help us with our academics, Father. I pray you help us with our life struggles, Father, in our academic struggles, in Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Paul.